Have you heard of the the Southern Poverty Law Center? If you haven't, they're this group that does some dubious work in helping us to identify hate groups. He is a hate group. Yay! So that's why I'm saying he's earned his street cred there. They say that throughout its existence, PJI has proved to be a hate group, often given a platform by conservative media. We love it. Anyway, today he's going to talk about the importance of November's election in holding on to our religious freedoms and the Supreme Court and maintaining our president who protects all that. Brad Dacus.
Anyway, how many of you have heard of Pacific Justice Institute before? Raise your hand. Awesome. Okay, how many get our case updates in the mail? Raise your hand. Okay, how about email? Raise your hand. Okay, excellent. Well, so I don't forget, if you'd like to keep up with our work, which would mean a lot to me, even if it's just to pray for our work, please fill out this sign-up sheet. Does everyone have one at your table? Have we passed those out yet? We're passing them out right now. Thank you so much. Please fill this out so we can keep you updated. We send a weekly emailed update, short email updates. Why? Because I don't like long emails when I get them. Do you guys like pages? You don't have time. So it's to the point. This is what's going on. You know what to pray for or to send out to other people. And then also we have a monthly, not a weekly or daily, a monthly newsletter we send out on a case focus. I'm very sensitive about this because I have a lot of kinfolk in Bakersfield. And I don't want them yelling at me during Thanksgiving or Christmas time when I see them in Bakersfield. So we're very sensitive not to do too much and make sure it's not over the top and it's very accurate. So feel free to do that. We'd love to keep you updated. Pacific Justice Institute, as was said, we founded in 1997. At the time, I was really felt overwhelmed. Attorney General Ed Meese helped get it founded, and I asked him if he'd be chairman of our advisory board. He said yes, to my shock. And I guess he remembered me from a conference. But so fast forward, we now have offices in 5 states. We have more offices in California than any other organization of our kind, bar none. We handle more cases on the West Coast defending religious freedom, parents' rights, the sanctity of human life, more than any other legal organization in the country, bar none. And it's exciting. We're getting a lot of work done. We have right now, as I speak, over 40 cases in active litigation, and it's growing. And what makes us unique, people say, what makes Pacific Justice unique? What makes us the most unique, I believe, there's a number of things. One is our breadth of what we take on. But most importantly, we make sure no one is ever turned away if it falls in our mission statement. Now, if it's a divorce case, we don't do those. Personal injury, I can tell you a really good attorney. But if religious freedom, parents' rights, sanctity of human life, you contact us, and we will give you counsel and representation, and every single one we do without charge. Yeah, I know, it's a miracle. I'll say it again. An attorney just said the word without charge. So anyway, so let me just say something about lawyers, because I know we're often attacked and demeaned, and I just, in defense of lawyers, let me just say this. It's the 99% out there that give us 1% a bad reputation. You guys got that one. That was good. I was once, that was good. I once spoke to an audience, and they just went, yep. Punchline didn't go. Okay. So it's exciting. On the as far as our offices, all donated office space. In 5 states, offices, and also Northern Southern California. Radio, we have a radio show. It is the most awesome radio show. The guy who does it is incredible. It's called the Dacus Report. It's on 230 stations. Okay, it's my show. But it's a good show. It really is. And it's heard all across the United States on 230 stations. We don't pay a penny for that. My commentary, Legal Edge, Monday through Friday, over 505 stations across the country. We don't pay a penny for that. Our TV program, the Dacus Report, is in different stations. It's not as big. It's really big, though, in the Philippines. I am a big celebrity in the Philippines. And it still doesn't give me a discount on those hotel reservations, but that's okay. And then we also just started Monday a separate TV program we're doing on his channel. So anyway, so we're getting a lot of work out. We don't pay for any of our advertising time, none of our office space. Our resources go to attorneys and helping them and helping people through our huge network of affiliates as well. Now, why are we in the perfect storm? That's what we're at, a perfect storm. Anyone here from Texas, by the way? Anyone from Texas? Come on, be proud. Come on, there we go. I mean, you guys know what a perfect storm is. You have two major fronts colliding with each other, warm front, cold front, and huge hail, tornadoes. Just, it's very dramatic because you have two major fronts colliding at the same time, and one of them is going to win, and it's going to be a big commotion in the process. That is where we are in the fight for our Constitution and our freedoms. And it is exciting because guess what? I know which side is going to win this big storm. And let me tell you, on one side we have outrageous attacks on religious freedom, parents' rights, the sanctity of life, hideous things. I'm going to talk about those in just a moment. But on the other side, and those are going through state legislators, states like California, Washington State, and others, it's outrageous. But on the other side of the front, we have something more powerful, and it is a revolution taking place in our federal courts like has never been seen in U.S. history, ever. President Trump, doesn't that sound nice? President Trump. Anyway, I could give a whole speech on how awesome he is, but I'm not going to do that here right now. But President Trump has appointed so many justices on the federal district court level, the circuit court level. It's been major. We've seen circuits already flipped, and the Ninth Circuit is about to flip. A third, yes. And a third of our justices in the Ninth Circuit have already been replaced. A third, more than any other circuit in the country. So this president means business. And then the Supreme Court, our Supreme Court is more pro-religious freedom and respectful of the First Amendment as a whole than any other Supreme Court probably in the United States history. And here's the good news. I think there's a good chance that we're going to see a replacement within this first term. And we all know who I'm thinking of, okay? And I'm just saying. And so I think there's a good chance, and I've done a lot of statistical probability research, so there's a good chance. I'm just leave it at that. Then if he gets a second term, in fact, Thomas may step down this summer, who's a great justice, but he may step down strategically to make sure that he's replaced with someone who respects the Constitution. So that would be awesome. Then in the second term, I love Thomas. In the second term, we're looking at two more replacements. And you're saying, what two? Well, one is Breyer. Breyer is already talking about wanting to spend time with his grandkids. He would be, I think, 86 if he tried to make it to the end of the second term. And anyway, for men, that's a real stretch to be on the court, I think. Well, for anyone to be on the court. So I think there's a good chance he's going to step down and spend time with his grandkids, and I think that's fantastic. So we should all send him little cards about how great grandkids are, you know? So, and I think he's holding off just to see if Trump is beaten, then there'll be someone replacing him that he prefers. So he's going to hold out probably. But then we have another justice that I think, and you guys aren't even suspecting this one, that I think we're going to see step down one way or the other, and that is Sotomayor. Now, I know what you're thinking. She's the most recent, as far as the Democrats, recent replacement. How can she be? Well, she. I don't want to. With the audience's size, I got to be. How do I say this? medically speaking, she unfortunately has type 1 diabetes, and it's very, very serious. That combined with other issues, medical issues that have not been advertised, I think there's a good chance that she is not going to be able to continue to serve, and she'll need to step down by the end of the second term. And I hope she does well in her health. But so the bottom line is, at the end of his second term, this is what we're looking at, folks. This is why we've got to get involved, okay? By the end of his second term, we're looking at a Supreme Court that will be 8-1. 8-1 is what I predict. And now I don't promise it because I'm not a politician, but I cautiously am optimistic on that. Now, what are the challenges we're facing and that we need to look at? And I think it shows the importance of getting involved on a local level in terms of school boards, city councils, on a statewide level as well as congressional level. First, let's take a look at religious freedom with regard to churches and religious institutions and synagogues. We had a synagogue we represented over in Martinez years ago. They were told they couldn't build their synagogue unless they agreed to 21 land use restrictions on just one day. Just one day. Wow. What day do you think it was that they had all these restrictions? Saturday. How'd you get? I know, because government's predictable, isn't it? Saturday. We represented them. We got all the restrictions removed. The synagogue was built and approved. Then we had a case in San Leandro, a church wanted to move in a facility. And they were told, no. The city said, no, you can't move into this commercial building. There wasn't any parking problems? No, actually parking improved because of different times of usage. No, they came up with, I think, 7 reasons. 7 reasons. I think they had 1, but then they added 6 more. 7 reasons why a church is bad for the community. It brings economic blight to the community. It creates gangs and violence come into communities because of churches. Now, I don't know what Sunday school they went to, but I didn't learn to be a criminal in Sunday school, okay? So, anyway, so that's what happened. We challenged that. We lost before a judge from San Francisco. And then we took it all the way to the Ninth Circuit, and we appealed it. Now, I know what you're thinking. What good thing can come from the Ninth Circuit, right? Well, let me just tell you, if in the Old Testament God can speak through a donkey, anyway, so the Ninth Circuit reversed on all 7 counts. Yes, and it was an incredible victory. And we've used that victory over and over and over to, in the most dramatic way, leading the country with regards to the rights of churches, institutions to overcome land use and zoning restrictions like this. It's been fantastic. Well, then we saw another assault, and we knew this shot was going to be fired somewhere. We just didn't know where. And it was San Rafael, Mendocino County. Not friendly turf, okay? They passed an ordinance which issued a property tax applicable to churches and synagogues. This is unheard of. Even before we were a country, you never taxed a church or a synagogue with property tax. Why? Because what the government can tax, the government can control and destroy. Well, they didn't call it a property tax. They called it a per square foot building usage fee. Now, when it comes to property tax, the government looking at my tax rolls, how do they appraise property? Do they look at the land, how much gravel you've got? No. They look at the square footage of the facility. That's what they do. And so we went ahead and filed a lawsuit. The judge, on its face, it didn't look good. It wasn't appointed by someone that I thought would be friendly to us. But he asked this question. He said to the city manager, the city attorney, he says, is it true that, is there any limit that the city has with regards to potentially how much of a tax they want to raise? Is there any limit on this? Or they can just tax however they want? And the attorney says, Your Honor, they can tax however much they want. And then his demeanor changed. And then he ruled and said, this violates the state constitution. This is a property tax. It's unlawful. You can't do it. And immediately rescinded. And we protected one little church, Valley Baptist Church, had to come up with $13,000 to keep their doors open, or the state was going to shut them down. It reminds me of, what's that Disney show? Robin Hood. Remember with the king and that little friar, you know, and he goes and snatches it and puts him in prison? Well, pretty close. And so we went ahead and we took this as solid victory. We're looking across the country for these as they pop up, because we know this is going to be the salt. If they prevailed in this, what happens if they prevailed in this, if we hadn't gone to bat? Other cities, particularly in the Bay Area, would have copied it. And where are churches the most vulnerable? In the inner cities, where there's fewer of them, and the property is the most expensive, and the churches are generally the weakest. They would be shut down where they're needed the most, so across the country. So it's a very important case. Then in Wisconsin, there was a church, the churches there were told in Des Peres, Wisconsin, that they couldn't discriminate regarding their hiring of ministers and people on staff. Yes, based on who they're married to. Now, you guys, this isn't in Arkansas. You already connected the dots, right? Same-sex marriage. So you have a youth pastor, youth minister, and he says, oh, by the way, it's great being here 90 days. It's wonderful being here at this church 90 days. By the way, here's George, my new partner, and there's nothing the church could do about it. And if they said, unless the church had exclusive memberships Sunday morning, I haven't seen one do that yet. Say, I'm sorry, where's your membership? You can't come to our church this morning. That would be terrible, right? Or even a synagogue. No, they're open, right? Because they're open, they said, you can't do this. We went in, filed a lawsuit, make a long story short. The judge says this violates not only the Wisconsin Constitution, but also the United States First Amendment Constitution. So we won that case, and already towns had already started to copy that in Wisconsin. And if we hadn't won that, we would see that intolerance and state control and really shutting down religious freedom as we know it all across the United States. And these are the appointments. These are judges that we're concerned about. You say, why are we concerned? Because there were judges appointed by Obama. He appointed horrific judges, those that he managed to appoint. Were very intolerant judges. Clinton didn't do a good job either. So we've got these with very, very liberal, they call it progressive, I call it digressive, destructive mindsets when it comes to constitutional rights. And I am so grateful for the revolution that President Donald Trump has done with our courts. Also, as far as politics goes, I want to salute the work that you're doing, Wendy. We see there's tremendous corruption. We need to deal with that head on, and that's why it's important we have the Electoral College, because that actually acts as a buffer for states that are corrupt. So if you have, say, San Francisco Bay Area floods and the ballot box with 60 million ballots, okay, even though California has only a fraction of that, but let's say they flood with 60 million ballots. If we have just popular vote, all it takes is one city, and there's more than one, that's corrupt to flood the ballot box, and they dictate the rest of the country how things go. Electoral College is a buffer. The worst that they can do is they can take out California. They can't take out the other states. That's why that's so important, and I appreciate what you're doing. We have a booklet called Church and Politics. We make this available to pastors across the country. Right now we're working on putting up pastor lunches and breakfasts strategically up and down the state in key congressional areas in particular, to educate them and empower them to be vocal, to speak out, and to possibly engage in church voting, collective church voting, which is my term for ballot harvesting. But if the Democrats can do it and they want to make it legal, then this is the counterpunch that works the best. So that's something we're working on behind the scenes right now. Well, not that much behind. It's videotaped. You guys all hear this, so yeah. Anyway, hi liberals. We're going to get you. Okay. So what about, and you know my phone won't stay on, so I'm just trying to keep track. Okay, very good, very good. What about, I've got my little timer here. This is really nice. So what about criminal defense? Now, I'll be honest with you. When I was in law school, my nickname was Brad Flip the Switch Dacus. I'm literally, My criminal law professor would say, so what does Brad Flip the Switch think about this case? And I'd say, yeah, the taxi cab driver, he gets murder also. He should have known darn well that da-da-da. I mean, I was just so hawk. The idea of me doing criminal defense was crazy. Why do we need criminal defense? These are criminals. You know? I mean, I was a hawk. I was going to be a DA at one time, just clean the streets. That was why I thought I was led to law school initially. 30% of our budget now, our litigation budget, is criminal defense. Every single one of the people we're representing is either a pastor or a minister or an evangelist. What they're being all prosecuted for across the country in multiple states, we've taken these on now. It's exploded in the last 4 years. They all for the same thing, and that is for public evangelism, preaching, sharing their faith. That is what they're all being prosecuted for. We've had 13, actually I think it's 15 cases. 11 we've prevailed on, 2 we have up on appeal, 2 are pending right now, based on my recent math. I had 2 cases myself in Texas. Texas. I mean, that's where the angels are supposed to go for vacation, you know what I mean? That's God's country, right? I mean, but even in Texas, San Antonio, El Paso, both of them were ministers, public sidewalk, public places, loving people. Wonderful. One guy was a master's in seminary, Southern Baptist Seminary, and philosophy, gifted in apologetics. Great guy, clean cut, and criminally arrested and had pending prosecution for obstructing the peace for over 9 months, and he couldn't leave. He was restricted, and if he was convicted, and they kept this going, hanging over his head for 9 months. If he was convicted, he was going to spend up to a year behind bars. Not in Venezuela, in the United States. This is all our clients. Michigan, Maryland, Florida. We've got 2 cases, I think, there. Big in as far as Washington State, they really hate preachers. Oregon, California, ! Las Vegas, Nevada has been just notorious. So we've been taking on these cases, and I think actually we have one in Colorado now. So and we're doing so very aggressively because freedom of speech is the heart of this, and religious tolerance and tolerance of faith. We have a pastor actually right now in Spokane, one of the latest ones. He wanted to attend in fact, he wasn't preaching, okay? He wanted to attend a drag queen story hour. Now, you guys heard of that. There's the whole campaign across the country to numb our children and to think that it's normal to be abnormal. And so I'm not saying we definitely shouldn't hate these people. They need help, they need love, they need compassion, but they do not and should not be able to impact our children. So this pastor hears about this, low-key guy. He walks in with his Bible into the public library, a public event paid for by public tax dollars in Spokane. He goes to walk in. Police say, "Excuse me, sir. He noticed the Bible. Sir, are you supportive of the drag queen?" He goes, "Well, no, I'm not. But I'm just going to be silent. I'm just going to observe and just pray for the kids, while this is going on." And he goes, "Sir, you have to be on the other side of the street. You can't go in there." And he said, "Sir, I know my rights, and I'm not creating a commotion. I'm not demonstrating. I just want to be treated like everyone else and be able to observe." He says, "Sir, if you don't go across the street right now, I'm going to arrest you." He says, "Sir, I know my rights as a United States citizen." I says, "And I'm not budging." And they arrested him with handcuffs, put him in the squad car for over 3 hours, sitting there in the squad car for 3 hours. Now, I don't think I could have lasted that long for 3 hours, especially if I drank coffee, but I'll leave that tonight. So anyway, so he goes, they take him down and book him in the jail. Then they have criminal charges pending. They won't drop the charges. So we go and we defend him, and we file a motion to dismiss. The judge dismisses it, says this is unconstitutional for the government to treat people differently simply because of their beliefs and for no other reason. To be treated like a second-class citizen, put on the back of the bus, not because of their skin color, but because of their faith. And so what they did, so we went ahead and they went and filed a motion for reconsideration. We won on that one. Now they're appealing it. And the prosecutor on his Facebook page referred to our client on his Facebook page as it was a derogatory term. Let's put it that way. It was like, you know, imbeciles or idiots or something. I forget what it was. It was a derogatory term, and he took it off once he discovered that we found out. So that's what we're having to deal with. Boarding school. We have a boarding school in Redding, California, outside of Redding, where I was born, and it's doing great work for over 20 years. They had SWAT came in with 2 canine units and social workers and 16 agents with vests and guns, raided the place with these little kids, K through 12th grade. Raided it because the liberal Department of Social Services, which is run by radicals, leftist radicals, they have a leftist radical social and moral agenda. They went in, and it was based on a BuzzFeed article of something that allegedly had happened 10 years ago. The judge granted this. Shame. I mean, I won't go there, but it was very disappointing. Police saw nothing illegal. They actually felt uncomfortable. They felt apologetic. But the Department of Social Services decided to double down and file a lawsuit against them. And the reason is they said, you should be licensed not in the Department of Education, but in the Department of Social Services. Because we found out, although you don't have any counseling, we found out that you provide transportation for parents who want their child to get counseling from a third party located somewhere else. And since you don't make them take a taxi, and since you provide counseling, or since you provide moving around, the transportation, then we're going to call you a correctional community care facility. And you have to go under us. Oh, and by the way, our rules mean that you have to let these children have total freedom for sexual exploration in relationships, same sex, opposite sex, whatever. That's how the state of California, that's how they treat the kids in their boarding schools. And then they said also spiritual exploration. So you have to let other people from other faiths or whatever come in and talk to these kids. I mean, that's not what parents they receive no money from the government. This is a private ministry school. Well, we went into court. They were going to shut them down in September. They filed a motion, an injunction to shut them down. We argued it. I didn't think we were going to win because it was a state judge. And the state judge says there are constitutional questions here that I think cannot be ignored. I deny this motion, which now gives us a strong position moving forward. It's going to go to a trial on the merits. This is one we need prayer on because the stakes are very, very high. If we don't prevail on this, every faith-based boarding school, private boarding school in California will be dead. They will shut down every single one of them because it's the same pretext. And then other states, blue states, will be copying the same thing all throughout the United States. So it's very important. We have a case in Oregon involving a church who wanted to it has an education wing, and they want to let a private Christian school use their education wing. It was zoned as an education wing of their church. Education. I mean, that was real clear. And the city says, "Oh no, we thought you meant Sunday school. So we're not going to let any education happen except Wednesday nights." Really, the government's going to tell us that? So we went in, filed a lawsuit, and we're protecting them. We also deal with professors in universities now. They're under attack. We have one in Moreno Valley Community College. We're defending them very, very aggressively. And we won at the arbitration proceeding because he taught both sides on the same-sex marriage issue when it was pending before the Supreme Court. Pretty reasonable, huh? Sociology. Well, since he taught both sides and had provided critical thinking, which is what every professor should do, which very, very few now do, because of that, they fired him. He had tenure. He'd been twice Faculty of the Year award. And they fired him because they said there's only one way of thinking at this public open marketplace of ideas. Wait a minute. There's conflict of it here. So you get the point. We won at the arbitration. Then they appealed it. We won then on appeal. Then they appealed it again. And now we're litigating it again. And you know what? We're going to defend him as far and as long as we need to because we want to preserve every single one of these professors. So I'm very encouraged about this as we move forward and in these kinds of cases dealing with professors and universities. I'm going to fix this phone someday so I can not have to keep turning it on. But they, what about Border Patrol? This is an interesting twist of story for Border Patrol because it's not what you think. Here's what happened. Some women who are Border Patrol agents are undressing and showering, right, in their locker room because that's what they have to do. Well, a man comes in. A male agent comes in. They yell like women should do, right? When a man goes in a women's restroom, I never have anyone say, "Oh, welcome." No, of course not. What do? They go, "Ah, this is a women's restroom." Ah, and I go, "Oh, sorry." You know, assuming that I made such a mistake, which is nothing that I can admit to. No man will admit to that. But anyway, so they go, "Ah," and he goes, "I see myself as a woman." And oh, get this, he says this he's alleged to have said, he is also alleged to have said, "And by the way, I shower with the curtain open whether you like it or not," end quote. So that's what we're dealing with. They've complained. They said, "Nope, this is California. This is how it has to be." And we file a complaint with the administrative complaint. We get authorization to sue. We file a lawsuit in federal court. We're taking this baby as far and as long as we need to up to the Supreme Court if necessary. And I'm excited because I know what we have on the Supreme Court now. We have a majority of 5 who basically, Roberts has a few times, but generally, basically, they respect the Constitution. I have no doubt that they will rule that it is unconstitutional as a condition of employment with the United States government that a woman has to be willing to be visually violated on a regular basis as a condition of employment. Right now, our client is changing in the parking lot in her pickup truck. Anyway, I'll move on. So that's a real important case. Religious asylum, people who are coming across the border from the south who are claiming religious asylum, we're not helping those because they're fraud. I'm just calling it out. With the exception of maybe 1 in 1,000, it's basically fraudulent lying and misrepresentation. That's not what we don't do that. What we do is we defend real religious asylum cases where Christians and Jews from Muslim countries in the Middle East or from China or Bangladesh are threatened. We had a man from Bangladesh. He was a pastor. The other pastor already had his throat slit and killed after getting a warning note from the Islamic radicals. And I don't mean to be, I said Islamic radicals. We need religious tolerance, religious freedom for everyone here in the United States. But we also need to understand the United States isn't the world. And so here in Bangladesh, they were killed. He was killed. Then this pastor receives the same threatening note. We're going to kill you unless you stop preaching. And he went ahead and he has a wife and kids, fled, then came to the United States. He was going to be sent back. This was actually during the Obama administration. And we went to bat and we defended him. Another man who was an underground church evangelist in Egypt was tortured. You can see the torture on his body because they wanted to find out the other people in his underground church sharing the gospel. Egypt doesn't mind. They're very tolerant so long as you don't ever share your faith. As far as the Coptics, they say, Coptics, you can live here and we'll treat you like second-class human beings and not destroy you as long as you keep your faith to yourself. He's an evangelist. This guy wants to share his faith. And so he was tortured. He fled to Jordan, came to the United States. He was going to be sent back. We defended him. This is the Obama administration in particular. We still have ongoing cases, though. There's still a lot of reform. And he is the happiest Walmart employee in America. And that's important. Then we have pro-life cases as well. Planned Parenthood, we got them, in essence, shut down in Vacaville. That was, yeah. I think I love to sue Planned Parenthood more than anyone. My fangs grow 2 inches when I sue Planned Parenthood. So anyway. Then we also have the incredible work that Trump has done to stand up for life. We're so grateful for that and his criteria for selecting judges. But also we help those on life support who are being threatened to be killed. We had 2 toddlers and an adult. They were going to have life support taken from them because under the new procedure, it's not about sanctity of life, it's about quality of life and balancing cost versus benefit. Doesn't that sound like Logan's Run, something like really just sick? And it's very divergent from our whole concept of the sanctity of life, which is a predicate to our fundamental rights. Our founding fathers really spelled that out. on the principles and concepts of natural law. So we at Pacific Justice went to bat. We've saved all three of those, the two toddlers, the adult. One, we got emergency injunction from the state Supreme Court. And I want you to know I personally take this very seriously because I know of someone who was, when they were a teenager, was in an accident and had major brain injury. The doctor said to the parents, even if he lives, he still could be a vegetable. You may still have to pull the cord. And it looked like they were going to take his life. And by God's grace, they didn't. They didn't take his life, but because they decided they were still hope and possibility. And he lived. And you know what happened to this young teenager who had major brain damage? Though I mean, you think he'd be just terrible. You know what happened? He ended up getting his bachelor's degree in finance from Texas A&M with a 3.86 in his major. Put himself through undergrad, put himself through one of the top 20 law schools in the country, graduated top half of his class, and for those of you who have not guessed, it's me. And so I usually don't share this story on groups like this. Usually I save that for church services, but it's a whole God thing too, and that's part of my story and testimony. But I don't have time to get into that. But the point is that I appreciate the sanctity of human life, and on all specters, and it's incredible. But this whole left side of my face has been totally reconstructed. My jaw reconnected. I have a hip bone grafting on my cheekbone. I really messed up that song, didn't I? You know, okay. Anyway, some of you got that. Okay. And then hard silicon up here, a hard silicon plate, and but they had the right side to look at with the left side. So anyway, it worked out. But the point is that we at Pacific Justice Institute recognize the value of human life, from conception all the way to when our appointed time may be. And you can count on us to go to bat for that and to go to bat for you and your loved ones as is needed at any time. We never charge for our work. Child Protective Services taking kids they shouldn't be taken. We had a case recently. We've been giving emergency counsel across the country, and we still do. I do directly. That's my expertise. We had a case where a 16-year-old girl was told by a psychiatrist that she needs to have her sex changed. Yes. And he said, do your parents support this? She said, no, my parents are Christians. They're not going to support this. Okay, I better call social workers. Social workers came in and said, are you going to do this? They said, no, we're not going to acquiesce to this. This is wrong. They said, fine, we're taking the child. The government, the state will be the guardian and begin the procedure. In California, this is recent. We were contacted, we stepped in, and we represented her in Sacramento. And the good news is the judge saw the light and returned her to the parents. And they're monitoring right now. It's still touch and go. But a number of these kinds of cases are popping up. And we're involved in those as well. And then finally, I want to mention is sex education. Oh, well, we have an article called 12 Steps to Protect Your Children from CPS. Very valuable on our website. And then sex ed, the new sex ed revolution. I don't have all the time to go into that. We're producing a video, explicit video, for parents and for you guys to use that to send out, give to your pastor, your parents, and rabbis and everything. Get those distributed so we can really make a difference and as we move forward. I want to have some brief Q&A. How much time do I have left? 5 minutes?
Oh, no, you got about 10 minutes.
Okay, great. I want to make sure I stay within the guidelines here. Yeah, I shouldn't work for the government, should I? So, not the FBI. Okay, I'll leave it at that's another story. Okay, because they don't stay within the guidelines. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I once wanted to run for office, but I realized after working for Senator Graham, even if I was a senator, I'd only be 1 out of 100 votes. I thought, that's not enough power. I want to change. So I went to law school. So, but I want to open up for questions now, Q&A. And that sex ed, we have the videos. We're keeping track of things. We have a number of remedies. We have opt-out forms. We have a whole campaign we're going to be working on to get out. We're cooperating with others as well. So if you're with another organization, you're involved in this, let us know. The video film highlights different groups because we want to bring things together, people together. The film that we put out, that's Dices and Slices Southern Poverty Law Center, that has we had a number of organizations highlighted who were attacked. It was a collective effort, and we have over 500,000 people who've watched that video. So it's been impacting. So the video on Southern Poverty Law Center, I think it's exposesplc.com, I believe it is, exposesplc.com. Or there's two of them. One of them is that. The other one is SPLC Exposed. But I think ours is exposesplc.com. So, and I think it's on YouTube. Yeah, you'll love it. It's a good one. It starts off real dramatic. That's because we have a videographer on staff, and he's young, and you know I didn't produce it because it's very dramatic. It's just this big bad guy, and anyway, you'll know it. You'll know it when you see it. But we want to serve. We want to get involved because right now what I see happening in public schools in California, and I'm not exaggerating, I've been doing this a long time. We're 30 years dealing with this area of law in California. I think we are about to experience what I would call a spiritual genocide of our children. And it's that serious. And that's why we're producing this video film exposing, separate from the SPLC, it's exposing the sex ed, LGBT radical stuff that from a very young age down to kindergarten, our children are going to be indoctrinated with. Transgenderism is exploding, and it's for a reason, because they're going to be pushed to explore as a matter of right if they want to change their gender, and we're talking about 5-year-olds. And it is absolutely inhumane, and this is something we're addressing. So I'm going to do, on that positive note, Q&A. Yes, sir. We'll start here.
School choice. What do we?
Oh, I'll repeat the question. Yes.
School choice. I'm a 40-year veteran of public schools. I retired. It's a mess out there. What do parents have to do to get school choice or a voucher so they can go to that school instead of that school, including potentially public school?
Yeah, school choice, we don't have it in California unless you have a child with special needs and the school district refuses to provide and meet those special needs, which is not that uncommon. They really don't accommodate that for a number of reasons. And okay, whose cell phone just went off? No, it's mine. Anyway, so the answer, so as far as vouchers go, that's a great thing. It's growing in other states. I think 19 states have some kind of a voucher kind of program. They're excelling. We're not. But that is something that's very big in the minority communities. The African American community in California is the strongest supporters of vouchers. They just unfortunately vote for the wrong people. So I do see a movement to actually get that on the ballot again. And we need to get behind that. Any effort at all, at the very least, let it pull hundreds of millions of dollars out of the coffers of the teachers union. Oh, and by the way, we also defend the rights of workers who want to opt out of their union. Right now, every public teacher in America has been liberated by the JAMAS decision. But that's great. But private sector, we still are defending those rights to have them have all their dues go to a charity instead of a union. So that's a little side note. Yes, sir.
I assume you work with and know Pastor Jack Hibbs from Southern California?
Jack Hibbs is a great friend of mine. I've preached at his church at least once or twice.
Well, my comment is he's probably in the 1% of pastors that understand, completely what they can and can't do. Do you make any material available that we could distribute to our pastors that tell them safe harbors and where?
Yes.
And before you answer, I'm going to take this moment to say our radio station has Dinesh D'Souza and Dana Loesch coming in March. And I didn't bring enough flyers. It's 860 amtheanswer.com if you want to learn more about that and your answer.
Okay. Good job. If I was your boss, I'd give you a bonus on that one. It was good. No, but actually that's a great station, and KFAX is awesome. You'll hear me a lot on 1100. Or it's KFAX. So your question once again. Safe Harbor. We have thank you. We have on our online, you can download it. It's called Church and Politics. It's what pastors can do. But bottom line is, if it's free speech oriented, pastors have complete freedom now for two reasons. One, the IRS is not enforcing the Johnson Amendment, even though they have hundreds and hundreds of videos. They could go after, including Jack Hibbs, violating it. They're not doing anything. Why? Because they know if they did, it'd go to the Supreme Court, and they would lose for sure. It'd be a slam dunk. The other reason they have confidence is because President Trump has signed an executive order. So as long as he's in the White House, it will not be enforced regarding speech. Now, you can't have money laundering, going through the church to candidates. That you can't have. But that's not the issue. Now, churches don't do that anyway. So that's a really good question. We have that as a resource, and we're updating it all the time. Yes, ma'am.
Along the same lines, have you reached out to large churches like the Venture with Pastor Chip and Pastor Bobby?
Yeah, I know Pastor Chip. Let me just say, you guys can help us with this. A number of things we're going to be putting on these pastor breakfasts and lunches in key places. If you want to participate on that white sheet that you have, say if you want information for church and politics, or you want to be a contact person for that, write church and politics volunteer. Just write church and politics volunteer at the bottom. I'll know what that means. And also, I do a lot of guest preaching at churches. I'm different than what they expect. I'm expository. 2 Timothy chapter 3 into chapter 4. So when in the last days, terrible times will come. And I talk all about what's prophesied and what we're seeing in the United States. And then I go into positive, proactive on verse 10. I'm plugging it. But anyway, I love to preach. I love to share the good news. And so if you want me ever to come into church, I don't charge anything. No love offering required. That's probably why I get to preach, because I don't charge anything. So, all right. Yes, ma'am. Yes. The question was, what can be done for parents to get information when Planned Parenthood is coming in? School districts are required to give at least 2 weeks prior notice to outside presentations. We had a school district here in San Jose that was violating that. We sent a demand letter. They halted. And with the media attention, we had everyone made aware of it. Then when they finally did do it, parents were equipped and empowered. But adequate notice is a real issue, and we're very sensitive to that. We will send demand letters. We will sue. And that's what we said we were going to do, and they knew it. They really respect us here in California, the school districts. They know we will sue, and they know that we usually almost always win, and we get attorney fees. So what I encourage is, if you have any problems along those lines, issues, contact our office. We have offices up and down California. We'd love to help on that. We are very, very aggressive on that. That's important. It's out. And Planned Parenthood is like a wolf guarding the hen house. 86% of their profit, separate from government funding, 86% comes from doing one thing: abortions. They are an evil organization, and we will do everything we can to protect these kids. So contact us. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we would love to talk to people who are, as far as child trafficking and foster parent and taking children wrongfully. In fact, I interview those on my radio show. So we bring that out because others aren't talking about it, which really frustrates me. It's the Oliver Twist of the modern era, and we don't see much coverage on that. I'm going to go to you first. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I'm very concerned about 501c3 in the churches. How do you see it?
Okay, let me give you a brief summary. I was 501c3 in the churches, but politically, right? Churches can invite right now safely. For a pastor can say whatever he wants behind a pulpit, as long as it's not libelous and slanderous. Okay, which applies to everyone all the time. Okay, but he can say politicians. He can criticize them. He can say, "Don't vote for this politician. How can anyone with a conscience support this one? Or you should support this one." He can do that. He can bring in politicians and to speak at their church right now with no problem, because the Johnson Amendment is not being enforced for the two reasons I said. Yes. You ever? Oh, the government control with regard to C3. Thank you. Right now, organizations that are C3, like Pacific Justice, we're a nonprofit organization. Churches are C3s, but they don't have to report as much, which is good. Right now they have sufficient freedom and liberty. The problem is down the road, when we have someone else in the White House, someone else governing the Supreme Court and Congress, et cetera. There's a real vulnerability down the road. Right now, it's not a high priority because we don't see it imminently needing to address it. But we will defend a church from the government using C3 status to imperil their First Amendment rights without a hesitation. But that's something we have to watch, and I'm glad you mentioned that. We need to keep our eyes open. Yes, ma'am. Okay, we need to talk afterwards on this one. Let's talk afterwards on. Great question. The opt-out, how does it work? First, a child cannot be excellent. we'll talk about the other one afterwards. A child cannot be punished because they opt out. Kids can't get cookies who do the whatever presentation and they're denied cookies. They can't be given a laborious assignment. They can be in a library or some other place reading or something like that. It cannot be punitive. The law is very clear on that as far as opt-outs. And the opt-out form we provide is very well done. It's customized for California, and we have them actually customized for each of the 50 states to maximize the rights and power of parents. One thing I will say that when parents, they often feel intimidated first off, and then they go to school and they say, here's my opt-out form. If you can take this, they look at it and go, I'm sorry, we don't receive these. We don't receive it. And I'll hand it back to you. No problem. You just go home, and then send it certified mail to the school district, to the principal, and another copy to the superintendent. Certified mail. Keep a copy of that. And they will receive it. And legally, they're on notice. And if they violate it, then we can sue them. And we will. So that is how you get around that. And harassment is not allowed. If a child is harassed, demeaned, we want to know about it so then we can address it and possibly sue the school district. Over 90% of the time, we don't need to sue. We get it resolved without litigation, by the way. So we're different.
I think there's one more question here.
Okay. I got to choose now. Yes, we'll do her. Go ahead. Real fast. Vaccine prohibitions, not letting parents opt out. We've addressed that. We do address it. Here's what we do now. Because of the law and restrictions, we don't file a lawsuit if we can't win it. What we do, though, is if a parent has a letter from an MD or a DO stating opt out and why, and I've got a matter like this I'm dealing with right now, and they have that, we will have pledged to defend every single parent that has that all the way as far as we need to in the state of California. We will go to bat for them, all without charge. That is our commitment. We can't strike it on its face, attack on its face, because the case law is not going to allow it. But we can defend the rights of parents. But it is very unfortunate and very serious. I'm going to hang around, just so you know, and I've got a lunch appointment at noon, but that's not too far away. So I'm going to hang around, and so feel free to talk to me. Please fill out this form. And also, I just want to remind you, we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization. All donations are tax deductible. We have George Soros doesn't support us. I don't know what his problem is, but we're supported by moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas, and that's how we do our work. So on behalf of all the attorneys and all the work that we're doing, I want to thank a number of you guys who are supporting us. It means a lot, and we do all.
We're not adjourned yet.
Oh, and if we can ever help you in any way, shape, or form, please let me know. When you're done filling this out, if you can just pass it down to the end of the table, that'd be great.